So, Michael, you once chased a three-peat.
Yeah.
We were just talking about it before the show started. You made it all the way to the NFC Championship game. The Chiefs did make it back to the Super Bowl on their three-peat quest. But did the three-peat talk cost the Chiefs the Super Bowl?
Man, I was thinking about this. Like, there's no way. You got to think about this. This is history that stands on top of history. That's why I call it a never ever. This is something that never a man has ever done before. I don't know how we can go into a season thinking that we're going to keep that quiet or we're not going to let that become a distraction. So the only approach you have to it is to address it and attack it, like the Chiefs did. So are we implying that the Chiefs were worn out by the time they got to the championship game because we talk so much about three-peats? I find that hard to believe. And then when we were talking about it, you asked me, well, like, I was like, I find it hard to believe. You was like, well, did you? Like, you know, I forgot I did try that.
Yeah.
All right, I forgot I tried it. But yeah, it's like, even if you go the other way and say, we're not talking about it, it even becomes a bigger story.
Right.
So it's no, I don't believe they got worn out by all the three-peat talk, because there's no way we could escape all the three-peat talk. What we're really saying is, wow, you mean the Philadelphia Eagles, who were fighting not to go 0-2, looked like they wanted it much more than the team that was fighting to go for 3 straight Super Bowls. But that's what it was.
No, it wasn't the talk that cost them. You had a hungry team, a motivated team who lost to them in the Super Bowl.
Right.
Coming into this Super Bowl, but I'm going to tell you what really cost them. Yeah, we could talk about Mahomes, the defense, but the bad habits that the Chiefs displayed all season long caught up to them. They played down to the level of their opponent, because when you've been so good for so long, you're like, you know, we'll beat them guys. You know, I've been on teams, we've been good. We're like, don't worry about the first half, second half, we'll beat them at the end. The problem is they didn't know how good Philly was, and head above shoulders everybody else was playing down to the level. And when they got slapped in the mouth in the opening quarter, it's almost like they didn't even recover. Right. And so that's what eventually cost the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. So now that's a wake-up call for them for the following year. And so hopefully they learn from that. And, you know, the Chiefs aren't going to nowhere. Their dynasty is not over. They still have Mahomes, Andy Reid, 2 of the game's greats. They just went 15-1 with Mahomes as a starter. So, you know, that's what I believe cost them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you, Michael. I don't know how you could have avoided it. Like, do you say we're not talking about the three-peat all season, and then everyone's just going to continue to ask you about it, or it'll become a story that you're not talking about it, and then that's the story? Everyone is aware that this is what you're doing. It's not a secret.
Right.
No matter how
history that stands on top of history.
Right.
How are we not going to talk about it?
There's no avoiding it. And, you know, listen, we know everybody is aware of their stats and, you know, what their next accomplishment might be. Like, it might not be the only focus that you have in achieving that, but this is what you play the game for. And they're trying to win a Super Bowl regardless of whether if it was their 3rd straight Super Bowl or not. So I don't think the three-peat talk cost the Chiefs the Super Bowl. I think the offensive line cost them the Super Bowl. I think Patrick Mahomes played because of the offensive line, which was caused by Philly's defensive line. Right. It wasn't just that, you know, Kansas City's offensive line forgot how to play football. Philadelphia was that good.
Right. Yeah, it was that good.
They were in his lap all game long. He was never comfortable. He was making throws and choices that he wouldn't normally make. You and Keyshawn were talking about it yesterday. When quarterbacks get hit like that, it doesn't matter who they are. This was the same formula with Tom Brady. If you can get hands on Tom Brady, make him uncomfortable in the pocket, you have an opportunity. It's the same thing with Patrick Mahomes. How do you neutralize someone that great? Well, match their energy with greatness, and that's what they were able to do. And maybe game in and game out throughout the regular season, teams weren't able to do that, but you only have to do that on one night, and that's what the Philadelphia Eagles did. They just ran into a buzzsaw. And
they put it all together, you know. And this, I said, like, okay, earlier I put it on the front office, that they've been taking talent away. Keep taking talent away from Patrick Mahomes as we watch the other guys get great talent, you know. And then in the game, Andy Reid, who's had such great success and and rightfully so has all the belief in the world in Patrick Mahomes, just kept calling pass plays, and giving that hungry defense a chance to attack. I'm like, man, just run the ball one time. Give them some kind of a break. But you have such great beliefs in them. So, yeah, now maybe they saw that and said, okay, this is the point that we got to start giving him some things now and see where he goes and not take him all the way to the bottom. Like I said, you talk about Patrick Mahomes, but on the other side, we'll say he dragged that team to a Super Bowl, and that was incredible.
Well, one of the Chiefs' key pieces might not be back next season. Travis Kelce didn't put his best foot forward in the Super Bowl with 2 key drops early in the game and a final stat line of just 4 catches for 39 yards. And Trav knows that folks are speculating about whether he will retire, and he shared his thoughts about his future on his podcast. Interesting.
That was very interesting.
Paul, should Travis Kelce retire? After listening to that, what do you think?
After listening to that, the one thing that stood out to me was if I'm motivated. Now, listen, when you start having those conversations with yourself, it's like you got one foot out the door. And it's not the same as when you're super motivated. You can't wait for the offseason. You can't wait to get ready. And he's a championship. He's a championship player. He's a Hall of Fame player. He's one of the game's greatest ever. So he knows how to get his mindset in that mode year in, year out. Until now you're like, if I'm motivated. You know what I'm saying? That's a tough one for me. I think if there's some doubt that's in your mind, whether you're going to get up and do what you did for all those years as a young buck to be ready, I really believe that he should really contemplate retirement. He's been through a lot. I mean, he's 35. That's, he's up there in age. He didn't look the same all year this year. Right. He didn't have the effect on the game like he's had in the past. And so I just think he should just go out and enjoy his life. He's had a great career. He's still relatively young when we talk non-sports. Right. He's old in sports, but young in life. And, nobody will be mad if Kelce walked away. I mean, hats off, respect to him, what he's done for the game of football, what he was able to achieve. And I truly believe, when those words creep in, you should really contemplate retirement.
Do you remember when you knew you were going to retire?
Yeah, I knew that my last year was coming. I already knew because I was like, all right, I'm going to get up one more summer, but, I'm kind of mentally drained. Physically, it just wasn't the same. I came back and I should have retired, because it just wasn't the same. I'd wake up some days and be like, hit that clock. Not today, clock. I'm going to go right back to sleep. Whereas before, I'm waking up before the alarm go off at 4:30 a.m. to go to the beach to run, to go to the stairs, to get ready because it's not the game. The actual game doesn't retire you.
Right.
The preparation for the game is what retires you. You get tired of that part.
Yeah.
Right.
And, when you don't have the motivation to do those things, then it's time to go.
Right. And you see this and you start saying, hey, what Paul's talking about, okay, I'm going to go out and run 15 110s, and then I'm going to go run another 15 backwards, right? And you get out there and you go through the first 7 or 8 and the phone ring. Yeah, no, man. No. Yeah. Oh, no. I'll meet you over the bar. Come on. You get your stuff and you go. Once you make those kinds of statements, he's right. Once you make, because you don't have the same drive. It's hard to make those kinds of statements and then go and prepare with the same kind of drive that you put up, that allowed you to put up the kind of seasons you've been putting up. I'm sitting back here saying, remember this. Remember, when Patrick Mahomes, soon as they won number 2, where did he step up? We're going for a three-peat, That means I go into this next thing without a doubt. Now, you're going into it saying, I don't know, I'm kind of kicking the can down the road. I'm hoping my boy, who I love more than anybody else in the National Football League, and I know how much he loves football, I'm hoping that he's grown wise enough to understand that's good old podcast talk. Let me kick this audience down the road so they can keep tuning in, as opposed to he already knows
He's just
that he
teasing
really
everyone.
wants to play ball, that it matters to him, that he's just kicking the can down the road to keep them ratings right. You see what I mean? I'm hoping, and I know how much he loves to play ball, but when it gets that way, it is. It is like Paul said, once you say it in your mind, it's a wrap. It's usually a wrap because it's too hard and you're not going to push yourself past that pain when you doubt it.
Yeah, it's a tough statement because obviously Travis has spent a lot of time in front of the camera and he knows how important this statement is about what he's going to do. He knows that we're going to listen to this outside of, the millions of people that listen to his podcast, but we are going to be paying attention to what he says about what he wants to do. And it's very easy to say, yeah, of course, I'll be back next year. That's the easy thing to say. And then all of us would move on with our Wednesday and we'd be talking about something else. We wouldn't be going back and forth about whether or not he should come back. Like, okay, yeah, so they had a tough loss and he's had a couple days to decompress and he's ready to come back and he's got one more year left on his deal and, we'll see the gang back together next year. Right. So maybe this is a little podcast talk to keep everybody locked in. I mean, I feel like people are listening to their podcast regardless, but this is something. I'm kicking the can. I think, motivated, responsibility, those type of words.
Yeah.
You're already thinking of how much work it is. And when you are a champion, when you are somebody who is at the top of the league, when you know how much it takes to get to that point and then to get back to that point and how many cold tub sessions and how many cryotherapy and how many chiropractor and how many times you have to do the things that you have to do to get your body ready to go and play, that when you start to feel exhausted by that, to you guys' point, that's when it really starts to creep in.
What is he making next year?
Oh, he's one of the highest paid. He's one of the highest paid. And he got one more year left. I think one more year left on the contract.
He might look at it like, shoot, I can go home, but I can go over here and just make this extra for the rollout. For the rollout. For the rollout.
Long career of making money outside of football.
You ain't gonna never get that money back, though.
For sure.
Right.
You don't get that money back.
You don't get that money back, but you also don't get that ability back. Like you can always podcast, you can always host shows, you can always go, tour the world. You can't always play football for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Right, and let's be real right now. He is in the midst of great crossover. He's doing football but doing media stuff and everything, and got his girl right there. One more good year of that, Travis. It's hard to walk away because that's really the macro part of your business. Everything else falls up under there. Right. You keep that thing going one more year to keep it, that's what I believe ultimately will happen. And I'm hoping he's just kicking the can down the road.
$17 million.
Oh, no, I got to come back for that one. I got to come back for that last year. I mean, unless I get an offer from one of these stations, that's going to be more than that. Yeah, I'll go to practice for like 12 weeks.
He will be
16, 17 weeks.
He will be very sought after in the media space.
This
is
perfect.
That is a lot of money.
But you're leaving. You're talking about leaving the perfect situation.
Yeah.
Travis Kelce, and honestly, 75. I know we talked about him not being all there. 75% of Travis Kelce is better than 100% of a lot of dudes. If you could give me 75% of them, you keep Travis Kelce.
Statistically, he didn't have a bad year. He's just compared to himself.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So for the numbers that we're used to seeing from Travis Kelce, it feels like he has, taken a dive. But he really is still playing at a high level. He's just being compared to his own greatness and their own greatness on the offensive side of the ball.
And let me give it to you. In 2022, he had total playoffs included 1,595 yards with 16 touchdowns. In 23, he totaled 1,339 yards, including playoffs, and 8 touchdowns. In 24, it was 998 yards and 4 touchdowns. Even a competitor looks at that and be saying, man, and you start feeling hurt and depressed and down.
The decline is there.
Right. And you see it and you've heard people say it and you hurt. And maybe he's just taking that moment off and then that drive comes back and that fight comes back. I don't think he's retiring. I don't think he's going to leave perfection. You got the perfect
17.
work wife
got
and the
17 reasons to
perfect
come
off wife. You got the perfect work wife and Patrick Mahomes and the perfect off wife and Taylor Swift. Boy, you perfect. Where are you going?
Well, the Eagles are favored to win the NFC, and the Chiefs are favored to win the AFC next season. But which team is more likely to make it back to Super Bowl and to the Super Bowl 60, the Eagles or the Chiefs, Michael?
This is a great question.
As you're talking about the perfect situation.
Right. This is a great question because there's no doubt you can't stand up here. And I know we talk about Patrick Mahomes and how great he is, and he is great. But there's no doubt anyone could say that the Chiefs will have a better opportunity right now to get back than the Kansas City Chiefs. Because the Chiefs will have a better opportunity to get back than the Philadelphia Eagles. Because the Philadelphia Eagles look so dominating in every area on the football field. That's a hard call because I know Patrick Mahomes, how clutch he is, and I also see the ceiling for the Philadelphia Eagles, which is way up there. But it's a volatile situation where it just may hit the floor also, that is way down there. And I still see that 10-1 start turning into 1-5 finish. That's how quick that volatility that they have in Philadelphia can erupt and explode and implode. So I got to take Philly for the talent on the field, but yeah, just as much as I pick, they can miss it all.
Yeah, I think it's the Chiefs. And it's not a knock on Philly. I just think when you got to come into a season now, it's a different role you play when you win it. You have a target on your back now. Like, it's hard to play with that target. Like, you know you're going to get everybody best. Like, you saw this year how teams played the Chiefs. They literally were in every game. Like, teams were in every game. They played their best game of the season.
Super Bowl.
Because you're getting their best because you're the target. That's just what it is. You felt that, Mike. When you won, you felt like you got everyone's best. And then when I look at the AFC as compared to the NFC, I just feel like there's more threats in the NFC. I know it's early. Moves are going to be made. This puzzle's going to be shifted around, and teams are going to be better that work that good. Yeah, but when I look at the AFC, you got Buffalo, Baltimore, maybe the Chargers, maybe Denver. As real threats. And then in the NFC, you got Washington, who's a team in their division. I don't think Detroit going anywhere. Minnesota did win 14 games. Green Bay has to get better. They're the youngest team in the league. And then who knows? Tampa Bay, they won their division. And then you can't count Sean McVay out.
Right. Paul, you just made me think of something, too. It was brilliant. It made me think of something. Because you're right. And we start talking about, okay, what time? Patrick Mahomes has total dominance and domination over all those quarterbacks in the AFC.
Right.
You're right. But in the NFC, they're still saying, I can get you, Jalen Hurts. So, yeah, I didn't think about that point from that perspective. I was thinking about from talent on a football team. There's no doubt I think it's the Philadelphia Eagles, but that's a great point.
Well, also, they have to replace their offensive coordinator in Kellen Moore.
Yep.
And the last time that they had to replace a coordinator, things went pretty sideways halfway through the season, and they did not have the season that they wanted to coming off of that Super Bowl year. I mean, I don't know how you don't pick the Chiefs. They've just gone to their third straight Super Bowl. Yeah. So it's a pretty easy choice to make when you're talking about the Chiefs. But I do think that the Eagles have a little bit more volatility, and we have to see what they do at the offensive coordinator position and how that works without Kellen Moore being there. Subscribe here to get the latest from Speak, and go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.